Okay. It's Memorial Day weekend. There may be some noise in the background. I will try to speak over it. After this video, I'm going to give some information that I think young fighters need who want to get to the UFC. They've been lied to by many people, but in particularly Jujitsu teachers have lied to their students who want to break in to MMA, pro MMA, and have hopes of going pro in mixed martial arts, and maybe dream of being one day featured in the UFC. The video after this, I'm going to tell them what they really need to get the attention of Dana White and his bosses. Okay? Because you will be surprised to know what it takes to get noticed by people, what it takes to get noticed by the UFC, what it takes to get noticed by Bellator, and what it takes to get noticed by ONE and other professional MMA organizations. Now, in this particular video, I want to explain why I said I will not debate people regarding Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu not being, or regarding wrestling being the king of the cage. One thing that I do, and I consider it my specialty. In fact, I was just asked by a friend of mine to do a series on NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, on my new channel. And I'm going to do it. It's going to be maybe about 8 parts on the basics of the foundation of neuro-linguistic programming, NLP. And I say that to say that my specialty is the mind. Okay, my specialty is the mind. Okay, that's what my specialty is. Now, it doesn't make you rich, but it does. It is something that always interested me. One reason why I will not entertain people who are BJJ fanatics is because I rarely see people who will change their mind about something they are emotionally attached to. I rarely see people who will change their mind about things they are emotionally attached to. If I said Charles Sonnen, I can show you a video that shows Charles Sonnen saying that Georges St. Pierre was the best wrestler in MMA. Okay, Daniel Cormier says the same thing. All right, John Danaher, the man who awarded Georges St. Pierre his black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, who by the way is 60% wrestling. John Danaher is 60% wrestling. Okay, almost everything John Danaher does on his feet is wrestling. Okay, so I just want to put that out there. But John Danaher says that Georges St. Pierre is a wrestler. Everybody that knows about wrestling, everybody who has any information or any video showing the greatest wrestlers of the UFC, have Georges St. Pierre being one of the greatest wrestlers in the UFC. Now, if there are people who keep saying, well, Georges St. Pierre wasn't a wrestler, then Charles Sonnen is wrong, John Danaher is wrong, Ben Askren is wrong, Daniel Cormier is wrong. Why would I waste my time? Why would I waste my time debating complete and utter insane Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu fanatics when everyone who knows anything about mixed martial arts knows Georges St. Pierre was primarily a wrestler? Now, some pisspot, blue belt or purple belt from the suburbs of America is going to tell me that Charles Sonnen was wrong, that John Danaher was wrong, that Daniel Cormier was wrong, that Ben Askren was wrong. Why would I waste my valuable time when my brothers and sisters are being massacred, right, by people who were worse than the Nazis? That's right. That's right. The Zionists. The state of Israel is worse than the Nazis. Okay, massacring my people. There are so many different things that need to be said. Why would I waste my time talking to some people who, when you go to their channels, there's nothing on their channel? Now, before I finish this rant, because I will be talking about some of the superstars of the UFC, I'm going to again get out my hammer and further destroy the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu community with facts. I'm going to destroy them again tonight with facts. But but before I do that, I want to point out some more of my qualifications. One reason why I will not debate people on this issue, and I will not spend 6 months going back and forth, is because not only have I taught grappling and grappled in high school and in junior college, and had a full scholarship to the University of Minnesota for wrestling, a full 4-year scholarship. Okay, of course, I blew that by beating somebody up with brass knuckles, but, stuff happens. Not proud of it, but it happened, and I lost that particular scholarship. But not only that, and I didn't really think of saying it because I've done so many things in the martial arts, but my wife brought it to my attention that maybe I should just inform you that I used to be a matchmaker. I used to be a matchmaker for a mixed martial art outfit. Okay? I used to be a matchmaker and talent scout for a mixed martial art pro and amateur promotional company in the state of New Jersey. Okay, what I would do is I would go around and I would look at some amateurs, the best amateurs, people who probably would turn professional at some point, and I would feature them in our MMA shows. Okay, the MMA production, the MMA company was founded by one of my karate teachers. Let me show you some action photos from some of the matches I put together. Here we go. Okay? Now, also, as a matchmaker, what I would do is I would find people who I thought one day, fighters who I thought one day could make it to the pros. One of the people that I featured in one of our shows was Pat Sabatini, who eventually did go to the UFC. Another fighter that, a match that I helped put together and helped negotiate the contract for was Jorge Macaco Patino, one of the trainers or one of the original teachers of Charles Oliveira. You see him here with Charles Oliveira, the man I'm talking about, who competed in one of our shows, is on his right. Matchmaker and a talent scout for professional and amateur mixed martial artists. Okay? The people who are coming into my forums and telling me that George St. Pierre was not a wrestler, okay, simply are not qualified to tell me. They simply are not qualified to tell me. Oh, by the way, here I am on the far end doing commentary on Pat Sabatini's bout. Here we go.
Thiago Coffee, ladies and gentlemen.
Now that I got that out of the way, I want to talk further about why, before I wrap this up, I want to talk further about why I will not debate and I will not spend 6 months. I'd like to debate. But with all the things going on, all the different things I need to do, the fact of the matter is, these people who think that Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is the ultimate martial art, are you going to be a member of my channel? When I launch my membership, right, are you going to be a member? Probably not. Are you going to take part? Are you going to be taking part in my Zoom activities when I announce what I will have going on by way of Zoom? Are you going to take part in that? Probably not. You're insignificant to me. So if you don't understand, if you can't accept that George St. Pierre was primarily a wrestler, if you don't understand that, then why would I waste my time with you? You're not qualified for me to waste my time. Let me tell you how desperate Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu fanatics have been. Let me tell you how desperate. In an effort to try to show that Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is in fact the number one martial art to study, this one particular guy gave me 3 names. He said Anderson Silva proves, with his black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, proves that Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is something that, makes people all-time greats. Right? This is what he said to me. He also pointed out Jose Aldo and Anderson Silva. These are the 2 people that this BJJ fanatic pointed out to me to prove somehow that I was wrong. That wrestling wasn't king of the cage, that it was Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Now, this blatant fool, he's a fool. This fool points to Anderson Silva. Do you know Anderson Silva as a grappler? No one knows Anderson Silva as a grappler. Right? Now, even with the triangle that he pulled on Charles Sonnen, do you know him as a grappler? He's known as one of the greatest strikers of all time. Yet, this blatant idiot, in an effort, in typical BJJ fanatic fashion, he uses Anderson Silva to try to prove that Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, right, is the ultimate martial art and the ultimate foundation for MMA. He uses Anderson Silva. He does the same thing with Jose Aldo. How desperate can you be? Jose Aldo, everyone sees Jose Aldo as being a striker. If someone is not using Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, you can't claim it's Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu that made them great. Let me say that again. If these people don't use Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, then how in the world can your insane people, you have to be totally nuts. How can you, as a freaking martial artist, keep talking about people who are known as strikers and bringing up the fact that they have a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu if they don't use it? This is the sickness. This is the complete and utter insanity of the Brazilian martial arts community. Next, let's look at the superstars. Let's look at the superstars of the UFC. Superstars of the UFC, okay? Alex Pereira, Dustin Poirier, Ilya Topuria, Sean O'Malley, Max Holloway, Conor McGregor, John Jones, Israel Adesanya, and of course there's some more. Where's the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu with these guys? Every one of these guys, every superstar of the UFC, okay, are strikers. They're superstars. Every superstar of the UFC, they're known as strikers. Now, let's look at black belts, BJJ black belts in the UFC. Alex Pereira, he was given a gift black belt, right? Even Daniel Cormier said he shouldn't have been given a black belt, right? And of course, your boy, your great hero, the greatest fraud of martial arts, right? Joe Rogan, right? What does he say? It's all right, doesn't matter. But Alex Pereira, black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. It's a gift, but he has a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Does he use it? Does he use it? If he uses it at all, it's white belt. It's white belt status, right? Dustin Poirier, he's a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Are you going to count Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu for the reason why he's a good fighter? He's known as a striker. This is the idiocy. This is why the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu community should be arrested. Should be completely arrested. This is why I don't debate with the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu community. Dustin Poirier, a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, what do you know him as? What do you know him as? You people are insane, right? Let's look at Conor McGregor. He's a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. What do you know him as? You know him as a striker. Ilya Topuria, a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. What do you know him as? You know him as a striker, right? That's a fact. It's a fact. If a man is not using Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, why are you claiming Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu why do you claim his black belt as being some kind of proof that I'm wrong? If a man's not using Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu to reach the top of the UFC, then he doesn't need Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu to reach the top of the UFC. Name a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu superstar who uses Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu all the time. I can give you at least 10 to 1 wrestlers over Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu who use wrestling regularly to win. Regularly to win. Okay? To even go further than that, Dana White is not interested in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. The UFC is not interested in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. They're interested in strikers and wrestlers. That's what they're interested in. Joe Rogan talks about it. Dana White couldn't care less about Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Why? Why? Because the UFC wants to see knockouts. Right? The fans of the UFC wants to see knockouts. They want to see knockouts. Okay? That's why. You people are insane. Let me show you a high school wrestling match. This is a high school wrestling match. Here we go.
At 160 pounds, you're looking at Kevin Randleman, the senior from Sandusky, four-time state qualifier, third last year, record this year, 33-0, 25 of those with pins. And he's going to be taking on Bill Spleet, the junior from St. Joseph.
160 pounds. A rematch looks like the same uniforms as the last time, and it is.
It sure is. It's almost a grudge match starting right away. Both of them good all-around athletes, of course, football.
Both of them something of prodigies as wrestlers. Both of them qualified for the state as ninth graders.
Look at that. Look at that. There you go. Why won't I tolerate Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu fanatics? Because you're not qualified. I have been a matchmaker. I have matched people who are now pros in the UFC. I have matched legends. I was a talent scout of real MMA fighters and helped MMA fighters get into the UFC. I helped MMA fighters get videotapes done so they could audition for professional organizations. You people are not qualified to debate with me. And the only reason why I even told you that I was a matchmaker was because my wife said, did you tell them that you were a matchmaker? Did you tell them you were a talent scout? And I didn't. So I'm telling you yes. That's why. Because anyone who says George St. Pierre is not a wrestler is a complete and utter fool. Is a fool. Anyone who looks at Anderson Silva and says, well, that's proof his jiu-jitsu is great when he's known as a striker, has always been known as a premier striker, right? Even though he submitted Chael Sonnen, he's always, when you think of Anderson Silva, you think of a striker. Why would I debate you idiots? Why would I debate you insane fools? You Brazilian jiu-jitsu fanatics, why would I debate you? Why would I tolerate 6 months of going back and forth? This channel is not for you. Okay? This channel is for people who understand that if you are in a man's guard, you don't try to pass the guard. You beat him bloody in his guard. Why pass the guard? Beat him as he's trying to get a submission. Beat him. Gather his arms so they're not an obstruction to your blows and elbow him into unconsciousness. That's what this channel is for. People who understand fighting. Okay? That's what it is, man. And by the way, we also had people at our shows who were fans of what we did. This gentleman named Harvey Dock. He would come to several of our shows. You know him as a referee, one of the premier referees in boxing. And I'm sure some of you will say, okay, well, he tried to fix the Devin Haney, Ryan Garcia thing. Please spare me. But Harvey Dock is from Newark, is another one who would come to some of our shows. But anyway, I just want to throw that in there, just to show you that, you're talking to someone who's qualified. Someone who is bona fide qualified to talk about what I'm talking about. And the greatest fighters in the history of the UFC, the great majority of them have been wrestlers. And lastly, I want to say that in truth, the UFC is not even interested in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. It's not interested in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. It's not. Even when a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu gets to the UFC, he doesn't get there based on his Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. He gets there based on his ability to strike. He gets there on his ability to strike, to knock people down, and to submit them when they're knocked down. Nobody in the UFC wants to see you sliding around on your behind. They don't want to see it. Okay? They don't want to see it. I don't need to spend 6 months talking to people who cannot stand the facts. Period. Period. And that was made absolutely clear to me when some blatant idiot, in his attempt to defend Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, in his attempt to try to prove me wrong, pointed to Anderson Silva and Jose Aldo as proof that Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu was superior to wrestling. When the fact of the matter is, he showed just how ridiculous the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu community is by pointing out two of the most renowned strikers in the history of the UFC. People who rarely ever use Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. What comes to your mind when you think of Anderson Silva, what comes to your mind when you think of Jose Aldo is striking. No matter how many times they have used Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, what comes to your mind is striking. Okay? Period. Period. What you see in the UFC is striking and wrestling. And by the time you see a submission, it's because the person has been wrestled into exhaustion. Let me repeat this. By the time you people see a submission from Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, it is because the person has been beaten and wrestled into exhaustion, to the point of exhaustion, and then and only then do you see submissions from Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Okay? Without wrestling, without boxing, without striking, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is trash. Trash. And lastly, you people saying, well, you need some Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. You need a good DVD of basic Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu submissions. That's all you need. That's all you need. A DVD, a $25 DVD of the rear naked choke, the straight arm bar, the Kimura, and a few other techniques of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu that generally is taught at white belt to blue belt. Okay? That's all you need. You don't need these ridiculous gift black belts that people are giving to Chuck Norris and Sakuraba and Josh Barnett and all these other people who have never ever who have never studied Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu in their life. The cheapest belt you can get, the cheapest belt you can get is now a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. There is no honor whatsoever in the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu community. And the stupidity is deafening. The stupidity of the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu fan is deafening. And again, and I can't say this enough, it has been shown to be, the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu community has been shown to be insane when they continue to point at primary strikers and say, there's that proof that they're Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. If a man is not using Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu to win, then you cannot claim that Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu has made him great. What you see in the UFC night in and night out, day in and day out, is striking and wrestling. And the only time you see submission locked in is when a person has successfully used striking and wrestling to the point of exhausting their opponent and thereby being able to get a submission. Other than that, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is trash and gets beat 9 out of 10 times by wrestlers. I have no time to waste. There are things going on in this world, and I will not waste my time with the most insane community in the martial arts. My name is Safe Carmen, a walking encyclopedia of martial arts. Like it or not, I couldn't care less. For those people who want to try to get into the UFC and want to try to go professional, I will tell you the skill set that you need in the next 24 hours. I will tell you the skill set that you need. You follow my instructions as far as developing these particular skill sets, you will eventually get noticed if you win. Okay? I'll see you in the next video.